Welcome back. So in this video, we're going to be creating another bouncing ball, but this time using the animation tools that we would have gone through in our previous video. So create a new scene, call it bouncing ball, or you know what you like. I'm gonna go ahead, delete the default drawing because I hate it. Create the ball, enter ground, enter. I used Control R as the shortcut. Went through that a few times already, so let's just plug these in here. So you know the drill, create the ground by going to the top left, clicking line from the rectangle menu, hold shift and drag a line across. Alt S to switch to the select tool, select that, and let's say 20. Yes, nice. Let's go to the end and press F5. So just press F5, expose that completely. Good stuff. Now let's do the same thing with the ball. Select the ball. Let's go over here to the same area and click the ellipse tool. Hold Alt Shift if you want to be fancy. Draw it from the center. Alt S, select tool, and let's just drag this up here. It's just, yeah, that's good. Let us color that. I already created some colors here, but you can press plus to create your own. So I'm going to select this color, hold I for the shortcut, and paint that in there. So we have a ball. Let's go back to the transform tool. Let us expose this ball. Go down to the timeline where the ball is. Go to the end and press F5. Stuff we should have known already from the previous videos. So now we have our scene set up. Press play. We got a scene, right? So what we want to do next is to set the pivot. And to do that, we have to create the peg first, because as you know, we can't mess with this, right? So click the ball and press Control P. Let's line this up here. And you can see here the pivot is where it usually is in the default. When you create a pivot for the first time, it's in the center. So we have to change that, or else it's gonna scale weirdly and do all sorts of weird stuff, right? So as we went through in the previous video, let's use one of the advanced animation tools to change the pivot. So Alt 3, and let's click the pivot here and put it in the center. Right, it's a ball, right? So it should be in the center. Let's click the transform tool, and I'll quickly show you why that's not a great idea for this bouncing ball. So if we start going crazy, right? Let's start to do our keyframes quick, just so I can show you this. Press F6, create a keyframe here, go forward to frame 30, come down here, oops, hold shift and bring it down. Just created a tween, good job. And now let us squash it, right? That's what's supposed to happen. So we squash it and it comes off the ground because the pivot is in the middle. So now we have to move the ball. Hold shift. Now we have to move that after we've squashed it. So the reason why this is not ideal is because while we have position data and scaling data going on. So while the ball is supposed to be touching the ground here, we actually had to bring it down past the ground, technically, right? In order to get the squash. And this is going to screw us over later. So what I like to do, let's undo, is I like to set the pivot at the bottom for this exercise. So if we bring the pivot here, right, Shift T to go back to the transform tool. Now we press F6. This is our first pose. Come here, hold Shift, bring it down. This is our second pose. And now when we squash it, you can see we don't have to move it. So we don't have to adjust the ball after we squash it. It doesn't change. The contact point does not change, which is great. So it's good to think about what your rig is doing and set the pivot accordingly. So let's continue posing out our key poses. So I'm going to click this and remove the tween because we don't need it yet. So let's click set stop motion keyframe to convert that. And as we know, let's click off. As we know, there's supposed to be the breakdown, right? So let's click this, press B to go up the hierarchy. Pay attention here and in the node view. Go up, Shift B to go back down. So B, Shift B, right? So click the ball, press B, and now you have the peg selected. So let's come down here to where the ball is going to touch the ground and create our stretch frame, right? Good stuff. Let's click that and remove the tween. Honestly, we should have probably just have stop motion keyframe enabled, but it's a bit late for that. So if we press play, we have a nasty version of the ball dropping. And by nasty, I just mean it's not tweened. But we have our key drawings here and our breakdown. So now we can start to worry about the in-betweens, right? Let's click that and press set motion keyframe. Click that. So if you press play here, you can see the ball is starting to squash super early, right? And I mean, this might be what you want, but for me, it's not really that great. So I'm going to click that and adjust the ease out for that. And to do that, I like to use set ease for multiple parameters. Sorry. So click this, and this is going to bring out a pop-up window. And basically what this tool is, our feature, is kind of what it says it is. Set ease for multiple parameters. So it's going to allow you to set the ease, meaning the ease in or ease out, for more than one parameter. So for the position, the scale, any other motion, the skewing, and other things that we haven't done right now. So as you can see, it has 5 functions selected. So motion, rotation, scale, skew, and I'm not sure what the 5th one is. I think it's velocity. But anyway, so it has all these things enabled. So now it's time to edit the curve. So by default, obviously everything is zeroed out, which means there are no values here. And that is why, if I close that, that is actually why it's all moving at the same pace. So if we click in the middle and turn on our onion skins, stretch these out, you can see it's a bit hard to see because there's so many tweens, but you can see they're all the same distance. So everything is even, right? So let's go back here and set ease for multiple parameters. So now if we drag this across, say to 100 and press apply, you'll see, actually let's close this, my bad. I wanted to show you the entire thing. So let's click that. So you can see that they're way more tightly packed near the beginning than they are near the bottom, right? And if I were to click this and do like that, which no one does, click apply, it's almost the opposite. So what is happening here is you can think about it you can think about it like a speedometer, kind of. So if, let's zero these out. So if this is your speed, right? And the bottom part is your time, as you can see, frame 11, frame 21, etc. So if this is a speedometer, then if we drag this out, the car, our vehicle, is driving slow, fast. You understand? So if this is the maximum speed at the top, then the acceleration is really slow, right? Until it goes up real fast. So that is kind of the effect that we'll have if we apply this. So let's apply that. You're going to see the ball start really slow and then drop, right? And the same thing will happen if we do it the other direction, right? 100. Using the speedometer metaphor, you can see here that's super fast and then it starts to slow down, right? It's like, oh my God, so fast. And then it's like, so if we press apply, right? I hope that metaphor was useful, because this graph has caused many people much confusion. So I'll set that to 80, and it goes from 0 to 100, so you can consider 80%. Apply. So if I press play, you can see it. So it starts to drop. Now, in the industry, I've met a lot of good animators and a lot of not so good animators. I also consider myself a good animator. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because this is not finished. If we press play, yes, there's an element of gravity. The ball is falling, but it really is not good enough. So what we do is we take what we want from this and then edit it. So let's say, for instance, I'm going to take this halfway point here. I'm going to call this my halfway point. Press F6 here. That is mine. And from here, I'm going to work backwards. So I'm going to come here and say I like here. F6. So I'm going to go back. I like here, roughly. And then I kind of like all of these. So F6, F6, F6. Actually, I'm going to favor that. F6. So what I've done is selected the positions, basically, that I like from what Harmony gave me. So all the other automatic tweens, I'm not going to use. So I'll select all of these and press set stop motion keyframe, right? Or Control L. So if we play, the overall timing shouldn't have really changed. It just doesn't have in-betweens. And this is when, like the earlier tutorial for the bouncing ball, we put this on 2s. Now, unlike that video, I can't select the keyframes and right click, go to exposure and set to 2. It's grayed out, because this only applies to drawings, not keyframes. Hey, don't blame me, all right? It's not my fault, all right? So we have to do this a bit manually. Let's click this, click and drag, select multiple keyframes, drag them over to save yourself some time. Drag that over. See, that wasn't too bad. So carry to the beginning and press play. All right. It's a bit intense. Nice. So this is not looking too bad, right? So I will put these next to each other because I want this to occur super fast, right? I like that. I'm gonna put that here. And now that we have half of the ball bouncing, we can kind of cheat the other half. And to do that, I will select all the frames up to the flat part. Control C. And go to the following frame after and right click that. And you see here, paste reverse. Now that's pretty sweet. So when I click that, it's going to paste what I copied backwards, which is exactly what we want, because we want it, instead of going from the air to touching the ground, we want it to come from the ground and go back in the air. So that's kind of nice, right? So let's come here and delete the first frame. Well, the last, but you know what I mean. And press stop, loop this, and press play. So we have a bouncing ball. So I'm not a big fan of how it flashes on screen here. Maybe it's a bit too fast. So click this, press plus. So the plus still works even though it's not a drawing. We can still push the keyframes forward. Click this, press plus. I'm going to press Control K, which is to set the motion keyframe. So now Harmony is going to in between those for me, right? There's almost a little animation there. Right, so let's come back here. Press play. It's not bad. Feels a little sticky now, right? So you're gonna want to tweak your, animation how you see fit, right? So technically, this is finished. But what I like to do is to add some extra stuff, all right? So in this case, I'm going to add a wobble. And to do that, I'll show you something that is a good habit. I would call it a good habit to have when you're animating. So especially when you're adding polish or final touches. So for this, I want to add a wobble, right? Like it has water or something in it. So I'm going to click the ball peg and press Control P, thus creating another peg. So I'm going to call this, I'm going to click the box here, bring up the properties and call this wobble, right? And this has its own pivot because it's, a separate peg. So Alt 3, and I'm going to actually put this one in the middle this time, right? So go back to the transform tool and I want it wobble when it is, in this settling phase, right? So let's come here. And you see the problem that is about to occur, right? If I give it a little squishy here, right? Harmony has already automatically created a keyframe at the beginning. And while you won't notice it right now, if I were to do, I don't know, something crazy, right? You'll see Harmony doing that over time. So let's undo that. So let's remove that first keyframe. Minus. Actually, let's remove both. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to show you is because we created the peg on top of the existing peg, right? Everything is happening under it, underneath, which means this entire ball is going to bounce and this new peg will never change its pivot, right? It hasn't moved. Obviously, we haven't moved it. The reason why this is bad is because, let's say for the wobble, I wanted to rotate the ball, right? Works fine here. If I come down here, you see you see it rotated everything because it's the parent. So you can get a lot of, well, for me, this is unwanted, but you can get a lot of clever effects this way once you think about how you're using your pegs. For this instance, I will hold Alt and bring this underneath here so that I can animate it before the bounce, not after. So that's, or underneath rather, as another layer of animation. So let's F6 that. Come here. I'm gonna go every 2 frames and add. Okay, so I'm gonna Control C. 1, 2, 3. Come here and Control, paste, reverse. Control L that, we don't want that. And press play. So it has a nice little wobble there at the top, right? Okay, so we've animated this bouncing ball, right? The only thing left for me to show you is, or to remind you rather, is that because we used pegs, it means we did all of this with one drawing. One drawing. So if I go in the drawing view, or I can stay in the camera view if I want, but I'm trying to prove a point here. So come here, right? If I go in the drawing view, you can see it's unaffected, just like we mentioned in our earlier videos, right? Because we edited the peg, not the drawing. And this allows us to come in here and let's choose a darker color, create things on the ball. Whoops. Fill those in. Come back here, and they're going to be there permanently, right? Because we edited the drawing. So they're going to stay there. Press play, right? They're going to stay there the entire time, which is kind of sweet. So we can make all kinds of changes to the artwork of the ball. Can go on the overlay layer and do all sorts of messed up stuff. So let's say let's have this here, go to the overlay layer. Why do I do that? Click this, click the eye, and let's do, wow, I forgot I had that brush. Let's use the pencil tool. No, I don't like that. Anyway, let's paint that in there. All right, let's do this on the underlay layer instead. So if we come here, that is there for the entire scene. So you get the idea. Well, that is it. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you learned a thing or two. If you liked the video, if it helped you, please give it a like. It will be much appreciated. And if you want to be sure that you can find the new videos I release on rigging, animation, harmony in general, please subscribe so you don't miss those. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.